what happens if you fall off the balance beam? And so many of us are so afraid as business owners to face that actual fear. So we're just constantly
Mhm.
trying not to fall because we're so afraid of what
Mm.
we look like when we fall. And I think the more successful you get, the scarier it is to fall.
We have fear of the unknown. And once you look at it, it can still may not be as pretty as you want it to be, but you can start putting things together and actually make like a good plan of action.
Success looks like fulfillment to me. It doesn't look like fame and fortune and all these things that the world can give you. Those are good things, but I think if I put my focus on them, they won't return the same that fulfillment will.
Well, welcome everybody to the show. Today we have Garrett Richardson, which is he's just obviously very successful photographer, all that stuff. You can look him up, like published, all that great stuff. But I gotta say, I didn't tell you this before recording, but the first time we worked with you, there's just something about I think some people that you're just like, oh my gosh, like this person is just like radiating life. Like I remember like you never know when you're like working with somebody, and you're like, okay, like how's this gonna go? Like you wanna like be friendly, you know, like it's like a dance always with photo and video teams.
Totally.
And I was just like, I felt this like wave of peace was like, this guy is
Aw.
like the nicest person I've ever met.
Aw.
And just seeing the way you were like, I think you were already shooting a little bit of like the rehearsal run through
Oh,
and
yeah.
just the way that you're like interacting with the clients. It was just like, you're just, it was just so cool. And then
Thanks,
we
man.
started like working together and it was just like such a pleasure. I remember like after we left the rehearsal dinner,
Yeah.
me and Jessica were like, Garrett is like the best. I was like, it was just, we
Aw.
were so excited. Like we're usually excited for wedding days, but I was just like, I'm so excited like to work together next day. So
Thanks,
I
man.
just want like you know his work, but if you know him personally, like even better human and just like an amazing person to work with. So, but
So kind
thank
of you.
you for taking,
Yeah.
well, thanks for having just the time to hop on the podcast and chat
Yeah.
all things, you know, life and business. So yeah, is there anything else like, so to add to that, like I know you used to be in California, now you're in
Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. I got it right.
You got
I
it.
right.
Yeah, I was in San Diego,
But yeah.
born and raised in Southern California. My
Mhm.
family's all there still, but in 2020 we moved our kids and family out here to Nashville. We live in Franklin, just like 20 minutes south of
Yeah.
Nashville, so in the suburbs. And yeah, it's good. But I travel so much that it feels like like I sleep here, but I'm not here that often. Like in March,
Mhm.
I think I slept in my bed like a week, which was crazy. A week of that was with my family in Scottsdale, and we had a vacation out there. But the other 2 weeks were just
Oh,
a
that's
lot of
nice.
travel. So,
Yeah.
but no,
No, I
yeah,
love it.
it's been good.
Awesome. Well, okay, to kick it off, I'm gonna throw you a curveball.
Okay.
What's something that maybe people don't know you super well, but like know you on Instagram, work with you that they probably think about you that's like totally wrong? Like an assumption that like is you'd say, I don't know.
Misconception maybe.
Yeah, a misconception. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, that's a good question. I am super extrovert, and that is absolutely true. But I really do love like just a little bit of like a refresher break, like not too long, because like I was just telling you, I had a 7 hour car ride to a wedding this past weekend on Friday morning and then on Sunday, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a long time for me. Like I get so tired after that. Um,
Mm,
I like when I go to engage people and I shoot engage. I've shot several of them. People are like, what in the world? Like, how are you still going? And I'm so energized by people to the point where, like,
mm,
dude, I could just, like, after a wedding day, I'm like, I want to go now have more fun. Like, I want to go, I want to go meet some friends and have a drink. Or, like, my favorite memories, like, when I first started out in photography, like 5 years in, was shooting a wedding and then finishing at like 10 o'clock and then going like before kids, like going to a friend's house and they had like a fire pit in their backyard. We have like a fire and whiskey hangout till like midnight. And that was just like my
oh,
favorite like combo of like all day shooting and then like decompressing with good friends after the wedding was like so fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Were the friends that you like shot with, or was it just
No,
like
just like
buddy
friends,
like that?
like, yeah, friends of ours in our community, people who like maybe didn't move away after college and stuck
Mm-hmm.
around. And, it's just, it's cool to like connect with like clients and guests on the wedding day. And like, you want to
Mm-hmm.
like have that level of intimacy with them where you can like go dance on the dance floor, like have a drink in your hand, but
Mm-hmm.
you just can't because it's not
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
not professional. So I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I have like that itch now. I want to scratch it. So
Yeah.
I love to just extend like time with friends and family, but I also need like a little bit of Like anyone probably, just a little refresher, you know? Maybe it's time with
Mhm.
God or just, like, going on a run or exercising, and then boom, I'm, like, right back, and I wanna
Mhm.
be back in the action, you know? So,
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah,
What's your favorite, like, a long time? You said, like, time with God, running, like, if you had, like, "Hey, I got, like,
yeah.
2 hours," what's your, like, dream, like, perfect, like, reset?
Okay. Definitely exercising, like, first thing. That
Mhm.
just, like, helps my body and my mind reset, and then I can, like, eat a nice like heavy breakfast. Like I love a big breakfast, a lot of
Mhm.
protein, and then, um, I mean, yeah, just being in like in nature with my wife would be awesome. Just like on a
Mhm.
walk along the ocean or a lake or going on a hike. I love baseball, so like I love just sitting watching a baseball game. So like this past weekend, I
Mhm.
was editing kind of late into the night and had just like the Dodger Yankee game on, and it was like so refreshing. I was like, man, this is my happy place right now. I'm like productive and have a baseball game on. It was awesome. So yeah,
That's the best. I
yeah,
love that.
for sure.
That's super fun.
Yeah,
I know having like those little like fun like life-giving things. I love what you said about the fire and the whiskey too, because when
yeah,
we like our first year or two shooting, one of our good friends, there was also like a younger couple that got married young, like us, we were around the same age.
yeah.
They were also shooting weddings. So we did a lot of weddings together that
Oh,
summer.
cool.
And he was a total whiskey
Yeah,
guy. And like we'd always do the fire and stuff. And they
that's
actually
awesome.
moved to oh, what's the other town outside of Nashville? That's
Columbia,
actually really funny that you moved not Columbia.
Murfreesboro,
Knoxville. Wait,
Nolensville,
Knox
Knoxville.
Knoxville?
Knoxville's East Tennessee, but
That
yeah,
I
that's
think it's
another.
East Tennessee,
Yeah,
or maybe it's not Knoxville. Anyways,
yeah,
it's one of those.
cool.
I was still sour that they moved, but it's
Yeah,
okay. We love them still. We love
yeah,
the Coons, but
another
I
one.
still we
Yeah.
miss them. But
Oh,
yeah, I know another one that left, but
yeah,
they always a solid fire and like good drinks. It was just fun to like. I was the same way Wired, where it's like you have so much fun
yeah.
like on the wedding shooting, but you're like we like let's go pick up In and Out and just
I
like go
know.
hang out. And this is pre kids too, so we could stay up
Yep.
till like 2 in the morning, and it's fine. You just sleep in. It's all
Exactly.
good. But
Right. Right.
now I'm like, I feel like I'm waking up at 2 in the morning.
You totally are.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Wait, how old are your kids? Are they like sleeping good at this point, or
So,
how's the sleep?
yeah, sleep is not amazing. We've got a 6-year-old boy. I'm just being honest right now. This is gonna be the podcast of honesty. I've got a 3-year-old
Yeah.
girl who's about to be 4, and then I've got a 1, almost 2-year-old boy. Yeah.
So yeah, the sleep is just
Yeah, and and
yeah.
and the one-year-old just, like, the dude woke up at 5:30, he's just, like, ready to party. He's probably like me, like, he
Woo,
just wants to hang out,
yeah.
you know? He's like, "Where's the campfire, dad?"
It's like 5 a.m. Let's go.
Exactly, and now
Oh,
let's go work out.
I
Yeah,
love that. That's so funny. Yeah, I know our daughters, dude, when they were younger, yeah, they were like on the 4 a.m. club.
yeah,
Now our 2 year old, she's like I think usually like 6:30. Today she slept until 7, and that was like
hey,
a miracle.
there you go.
It was really nice. But yeah, the sleep is I like you don't it's hard to like appreciate before because you just
Totally.
don't know.
I don't
And
know.
then
Yeah,
you're like, oh yeah. And you're like, oh, this is what it's like to just always be a little tired. But
exactly.
it's
It's just
you love them though.
it's just part
What
of
do
it.
you love? What do you love? Yeah. What do you love most about your kids?
Oh man, everything. I love I love playing catch with my son, Ryder. He's like big into baseball right now, so he's always asking to play catch. And like the second he
Mhm.
asks, obviously there's like times where I'm like, "Oh man, I really can't do that." But I try to say yes as much as I can because, there's going to be a day when he won't ask. And like I don't want to live in scarcity mindset, but I do want to like appreciate and take advantage of the opportunities when I have the chance to do so.
Mm, yeah.
My daughter Selah, she like absolutely loves dolls and dressing up. So like she'll come down almost now every day. We have a full her closet is full of dresses she's never worn. So like every day it's fun to like pick a new dress that she gets to try on, and she like loves to show off her dress. I'm like, oh, it's so sweet. And then Athen, man, he is a wild card, just like a busy guy. He's really into horses right now. So anytime
Oh.
he sees a horse, we live very close to like the country and stuff, and we just drove out there this morning, and he freaks out. It's hilarious. So we just actually were up in Kentucky, went to like where the Kentucky Derby is, and watched a horse
Mhm.
race, and
Oh,
that was a trip. That was so fun. So
that sounds amazing.
we're
That must be so much fun.
it is. We're busy with our kids, and I love my work. I recently heard
Mhm.
a podcast with Forrest Frank. He's a really popular like musician songwriter right now, and he talked.
Mhm.
I know we'll get into this in a second, but he talked about like how he is like just running hard with family. Like I'm sorry, with business.
Mm,
Like he'll just like be on when he's
mhm.
on tour. He's like fully on and gives 1,000% of his energy to that, and then when he's home, he's like, "I'm fully retired." It's like all or nothing, and that's kinda how I feel
I
like I
love
am right
that.
now in life. It's like when I'm shooting a wedding, like this past weekend, I was editing, I was emailing, I was dialed in, I was preparing for the wedding. My
Mhm.
mind couldn't think of anything but that shoot. And then I got home and now I'm like full dad. I'm obviously with you right now, but like
Mhm.
I've been with my kids this morning. I worked out this morning. There's just so much going on in our home that and in our personal life too that I just share with you, which I'm happy to share more about. My wife and I
Yeah.
just experienced a very traumatic loss in our family. We lost a child at 21 weeks, so we've just got a lot going on
Yeah.
emotionally and just really trying to lean into where the Lord is leading us in this season. And some of that is setting down some things that are really important so that you can pick up the people that are in your life that need you the most.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's really well, thanks for sharing being like I know that's like a I know we were talking like beforehand. Like that's just I mean, as a parent, like I think at any stage, like losing a child is like something I just is like the hardest, like
Yeah.
confusing and
Yep.
like yeah, what does that look like? I guess I mean obviously in just general like trying to focus and how do
Hmm.
you balance like work and family is something, but like
Hmm.
is there things like practically now like that you've been able to do to just like be present
Mm.
with like your wife and kids and
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've never experienced pain like this. Like we were
Mhm.
21 weeks pregnant and it was like a preterm birth. So it was like the most traumatic birth experience you can ever experience. Like
Yeah.
the baby was healthy, she was strong, everything was good about her. It was just like there's
Mhm.
complications that we weren't aware of from our team that should have been more disclosed that led to where we were at. So because of the level of pain that our family was in, like I just had to say to my clients and like people that were expecting things of me, like, hey, this just happened. Like this was unexpected. I
Mhm.
need some grace right now. Like I need like 2 to 3 weeks to just
Yeah.
like focus on my family. And the idea of balance, that's always been something that I've struggled with, to be honest. A mentor of mine, my wife's former boss, he was really influential in our lives. He told her one day, and she told me this, that like to kind of like think about balance in terms of integration versus like balance.
Mm.
So when I think of balance, I think of like, it's like a teeter totter, there's maybe more
Mhm.
weight on one side and the other side goes up and then it keeps going back and forth. And it's constantly this game of like, essentially like don't fall off. And I feel like that concept in
Mhm.
life is really, um, it can feel like fear is constantly like pressuring you or just like, what if I fall? Will
Mhm.
my clients be okay? Will my family be okay? That idea of balance versus like standing on 2 feet, like having a sturdy foundation and saying,
Mm.
I'm going to integrate this into my life right now, which means if I need to make room for this thing that's important, I need to move this thing out, So it's being really
Mm.
intentional about like your yes. And obviously, with 3 young children, I have to be really intentional with that yes. So that's
Yeah.
every client, honestly, I bring in. Like, I want to make sure they're a good fit, you know? I want to partner with new planners that I think would be a good fit too. Like I'm very strategic about who I invest in as far as people.
Mhm.
I want to find people that I feel like can like jive with the energy that I put out on the wedding day, and I think that like can create so much more trust and peace and like strengthen the relationships you form. They just trust you inherently. Like Garrett is on it. He's going to take care of my client. He knows the ins and outs of how I work. So that can help with seasons like this that are maybe a little more challenging. I recently had an event I was going to speak at in San Diego and shoot at, and thankfully the person putting it together, I've known her for a very long time, very trusting relationship.
Mhm.
She was like, Garrett, go and be with your family. So like when things like this arise, I think it's important to build relationships with people that trust you and know you and like you, so that there's availability for movement. And it's not like a fear of like, oh shoot, like if I say no to this thing, then I'm gonna lose the
Mhm.
relationship forever. Like I think it's easy to
Mm.
go to that place mentally, um, because there's so many people out there who are hustling and going after and all that. And
Yeah.
yes, that's true, but if you can just stay true to who you are and like consistent and honest of like, hey, this is my reality right now. Personal life is going to
Mm.
clash with professional life. That's just inevitable. I think for so
Yeah.
long, like I tried to like squelch that or like um, not like not be as honest about
Like
the
keep
reality of
them
that. Yeah,
separate.
keep them separate. And
Hmm.
I actually do think I keep them pretty separate, but I also want to just be like, "Hey, Garrett, it's gonna be okay right now." Like if you can't go
Hmm.
and do that thing, like and being honest with you, like sometimes for me, the work's more about my own personal um ability to like offload maybe like worth. Like so work can be so
Mm.
tied to worth. It's like if I'm not getting enough done in my mind today, I'm not worth enough, right?
Mm.
Versus like,
Yeah.
no, the client's fine. Like if I get the photos to them tomorrow, they're gonna be just as happy if I got them to them today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Versus
But we
like,
put so much pressure on ourselves.
yeah, we do of like, oh man, like I gotta get this done. It's like, no, you don't. Like you can go do this thing. Like that's okay, you know? It took me a long time to
Hmm.
get there and I'm still struggling with that, but it's definitely something that um I think is important to like to kind of become more powerful over in your mind because everything's so mindset
Hmm.
driven as an entrepreneur. Like
Yeah.
it's solo entrepreneurship. You are by yourself. You and your wife have a unique situation, but like you and you probably get in your head too. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I gotta just like realize what is motivating me right now. Like,
Mm.
is it my own stuff of like feeling unworthy? So I'd have to go out and do this thing to feel like cool. Now I'm good, or is it like an extra outside motivator? If that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Like, is there a time that you would like point to as like a moment where you kind of had that switch, like whether it was like a mentor speaking to your life or like you read a book or like
Mm,
you felt like, because I feel like a lot of times we have this, especially because it's so much like you touched on it, is like it can be very lonely, like
mhm.
running a business by yourself, especially in this industry where you can do a lot
Yeah, there's
solo.
so many things to do.
And
Yeah,
like grow like, and you're doing so many things, but you can grow relatively like very successful business. Like there's not that
yeah,
many other businesses that I know that you could be like going at this scale and kind of be a one man band.
so
So
true.
I feel like it's not like but it's not very, it's not like natural to do things on your own.
Right.
So like, is there a moment that you like had someone speak into your life or just that you kind of be like, hey, it's okay to like let go a little bit or
Mm.
like kind of like you were touching on?
I think honestly, it's just like sitting with myself and being like, dude, you gotta shift something. Cause like pre kids, I mean, man, I started my business in 2011 and
Hmm.
shooting full time weddings and then had my first child in 2019. And like every single time I've done anything important, like moving, having a kid, it's always like this like shift that I have to make in my mind of like, okay, again, like integration versus balance. Like, can you imagine if you just lived your whole life trying to balance and adding more things in? Like that sounds so stressful and like
Yeah.
overwhelming. So it's like cool. Like that I think that's how much of our culture in the West operates. Like in order to have the dreams that you want, which maybe for some people it's to have more kids, you're like, crud, we gotta all fit on this balance beam together. What if my child like decides to walk this direction and it tilts this way and now
Hmm.
I'm going with it? And it's like then you get frustrated with that child and then it creates disconnection and then you resent them for doing that thing and now your business over here is now not where you want it to be. So like again, just and I'm not saying that that balance term is bad. I'm just saying that like for me
Hmm.
personally, it's been helpful to shift that perspective or that language
Yeah.
around to say like no, like 'cause okay, so I feel powerless when I'm on that beam, right? I feel like at any minute,
Mm.
something could jump over on that side and would fling me over that direction. And now I have no control over that situation. Whereas if I'm integrating things to my life, I can stand on my own 2 feet again. Um, if you wanna use the language of like when scripture talks about like a solid foundation versus sinking sand, like
Hmm.
if you're standing on your own 2 feet on the wisdom that the Lord is giving you in that
On the
moment,
rock. Yeah.
all of that, you're way more able to give away to the things that are needed and also say no to the things that are not necessary in that moment. And I've honestly, like, because of the season I'm in right now, to be honest, like with everything going on in my personal life, I've had to take it like day by day and just like, as scripture
Mm.
says, like, don't worry about tomorrow. Like, there's enough anxieties or things to worry about tomorrow. Like, worry about
Yeah.
today. Like, dude, that is so real for me right now. And it's not that I'm not planning ahead or like thinking ahead. I absolutely always thinking ahead 'cause I'm such a visionary and I'm always like proactive. But there's been times where I've had to be like, it's okay to not think about that because that's actually bringing on more
Mhm.
anxiety than is needed right now.
Yeah.
If I don't know if that lands, but
Yeah, no, that totally does. I totally I mean, I wanna, like, break down, yeah, more of that, like, integration because
mm,
I think that idea of, like, yeah, like, work like, that balance, whatever it is, like,
yeah,
oh, it's like, how do you find the balance? And it's like, yeah, it's never possible. I remember,
yeah.
have you read the book The One Thing, or have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a so I've, like, read it, like, 4 times
Oh,
by this point because
awesome.
I can't, like, get it through my head,
I
but
gotta read
he
that.
talks about I think I'm pretty sure it's in this book where he talks about, like, the myth of, like, work-life balance or just
Yeah.
life balance, and for him, he talks about it's, like, balancing, like, he talked about if you, like, look at a ballerina that she looks, like,
Mhm.
perfectly, like, balanced, and he's like, if you look closely, like, her foot is, like, vibrating
Yeah.
back and forth, always counteracting,
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, sometimes there's, like, a give and take and, like, how do you, like, find that? But I like
Mm.
more so what you're saying about this integration where it's like, okay, what does it look like to stand on like your 2 feet and have that firm foundation? So
Yeah.
like I see what you like you touched on a little bit of like, okay, like what it means to like be rooted and have a firm foundation and like
Mhm.
you kind of mentioned scripture and stuff, but like practically as like
Mhm.
maybe that like verb, like what does that actually practically look like
Mhm.
when people like I guess talk about balance and I like what you said that was really powerful, just the idea of like at any point, like you're susceptible to like the wind. Like if you're in
Mhm.
sand, it's like something comes and you're just like, well, that you're kind of like at any point,
Yeah.
which then makes sense to have anxiety because you're like,
Yeah.
well, any point outside of my control could change my reality.
Correct.
Versus what you're saying, if you have like a firm foundation on your 2 feet, like
Yeah.
things could happen outside of you,
Yeah.
but it doesn't need to like affect. And it could like obviously, yeah, the weather or climate you're in can affect you to a degree, but how
Yeah.
you what you do with it is really what,
That's
and
it.
that's kind of where you get like victim versus like what's the word? Victim versus
Yeah, versus, like, coming from, like, a
yeah.
place of connection and family and, like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
connected to something versus, like, living constantly disconnected and feeling like you're always striving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so, that concept, I think you can respond to a situation so much better than just reacting to it, you know? Because when you're on that
Mm.
balance beam, you're just constantly reacting. It's like being on a boat, and you don't know at
Mm.
any point, if, a massive, like, wave is gonna come and just, pop you out of
Mm.
where you're
Mhm.
at, versus if you're on the land, you're on sturdy ground. You're steady. That's been a struggle for me for most of my life is like the two worlds I just described of like feeling like uneasy and reacting to things, and that's when I'm in a place of unhealth
Mhm.
versus like a
Yeah.
place of health, which is, hey, that just happened. Now what are we going to do about it? And I
Mhm.
think real practically, things like on a wedding day, if we're going to go in this
Yeah.
kind of chapter or pocket of like our work is like, man, if you can walk into a wedding day grounded and steady and strong and rooted in who you are and what you do, like
Mhm.
confident from identity perspective of like what you can offer that client. Um, like for me, I tell my every single person I talk on the phone to that my goal is to be the most steady, grounded person in the room. And when you
Mm.
do that, you bring peace, like you were talking about earlier, you bring
Yeah.
confidence, you bring joy, you bring hope that like, hey, if things happen today that are out of my control as a bride or a groom or a mother of the bride or whatever, like this guy over here, he's got my back. And when you have that type of person in your life, you can feel more like at ease, you can relax, you can enjoy, you can be present with people. Um, and so I just try to be as present as possible, attuned to
Mhm.
people's worries, people's emotions. There's a lot of emotions on the wedding day. There's a lot of worries on the wedding day.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so much more than taking photos for me. Like, man, I feel like my job is a therapist, my job is a pastor, my job is a friend, and if I can lean into those aspects of that, the photography just comes. Like they can be
Mm.
themselves and then I can shoot the most grounded, present, joyful person. If it's flipped and I'm
Mhm.
just stepping back and I'm like over here with my camera and I'm just in the room,
Yeah.
have a camera. Man, you might not get those moments that they're wanting, because
Yeah.
something's missing, in terms
Yeah.
of like guiding them through that day. And I'm not saying that photojournalists are bad or anything. I'm just saying that my personal take on it is because I love people so much is that I want to guide them through that day and help them feel
Mm.
like someone's got me. And there might be someone else on the
Yeah.
day who's doing that too, and that's amazing. And then I can just kind of sit in the background and shoot. But that's not always
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah. No, I love, I mean, and I think it can apply to a lot of other areas in life, but
Mhm.
what you just said of, because we tend to like kind of lean more of like your style where I think
Yep.
I get, I think the funny thing is like what you said is the idea of like maybe like more photojournalists, like let it
Yeah,
happen. Like I get it too, because you don't want to like make the day a production. And like we're very
absolutely.
like, I don't want to be like posing things. But I
It's not a
think what
photo
you're
shoot.
touching on is, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you're actually letting it be, you're like, if you're bringing peace and you're not like,
Mhm.
instead of, you're not focusing on how can I get these photo moments? Like, okay,
Bingo.
stand over. Like, you're like, no, it's like, I'm making sure people can actually be themselves
Yes,
so that way they can enjoy the day and they're not like stressed out about something they don't need to be stressed out about.
exactly.
And I think that's just such an interesting thing versus if you just like, nope, I'm going to let it happen. And you're like, so you're just going to let a crazy stressful situation play out where
Yeah.
like the mom's clearly like overwhelming the bride and you're like, hey, if there's a way you can like, it's something that's not
Yeah.
really a big deal and you could like step in and help like, hey, let me get connected to the planner and like make sure that because the mom can't find a spot to park her car, like whatever it is, you're
Yes,
like, why would I just like be a bystander because my work isn't going to look good anyways. So how do
exactly.
I
Exactly. I
so yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah, I heard someone say recently, that, like, a photographer during the getting ready, she was, like, shooting, I don't know, PJ shot or whatever, like, with the bride and her bridesmaids,
mhm,
and the photographer asked the bride, "Okay, what do you wanna do next?" Or something like that,
mhm,
and the bride looked at her like,
uh-huh,
I don't know, like, you tell me," you know?
yeah,
And obviously, there's moments, like, where the bride wants certain things, but like,
mhm,
so much of the time for us as photographers, our job is to guide them through that day, so you have a roadmap in
mhm,
your mind of where you're going next at all times,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And if they don't wanna do that, that's totally fine. Like,
yeah,
you pivot, you shift. It's kinda like we just talked about of, like, integration versus balance. It's like, man, what's gonna happen if this person doesn't wanna do this thing or whatever, you know? You just are constantly
mhm,
you're taking one step in front of the other. That goes from a macro and a micro scale. In life, not looking too
mhm,
far ahead, but also in the wedding day and, like, in your business and, like, okay, today is a new day. What do I need to integrate today that's going to help me get better for tomorrow? Versus like, oh man, I
mm,
just want to be the best. I got to be the most successful person. I got to make the most money. It's
mhm,
like that is crippling. That won't happen
yeah,
today to that level, but you can take one step in front for the other and learn along the way, you know, and make mistakes and grow and you know evolve versus like trying to just do everything all the time. And I think that was my concept early on, to be honest. Like, I was like, I want all these things, and it's
mhm,
just not reality. Like, time is your best friend, and if you can just
mhm,
like give yourself grace and remove pressure and hold your hands open, so much more can come versus like striving and trying to like muscle your way through whatever challenge you're facing.
mm,
You know?
yeah. No, I love that. I mean, yeah, it's so true where I think you could, like, I like that, like the posture of just, I mean, I love analogies. So like
Yeah,
the
me
idea of
too.
like holding your hands up and like, it works for so many things where it's like, okay, like if you like for money, if you're holding your hands up when we're like, you're generous and you're like, hey, like, I'm going to like let it overflow. Like you end up also being good yourself versus when you just try to hold on to everything. It's like,
Yep.
you end up always focusing, like you focus on, you get what you focus on. So if you're always focusing on
Totally.
this lack, like,
Yes.
well, you're going to have lack versus if you're like, okay, like, there's enough and I'm not there's so much opportunity and I can go create it
Yep.
instead of just try to take what's already there.
Hmm.
I think it's just such a fundamental like yeah, that idea of scarcity I think is just so big because it can just it gets to this really negative cycle that just
Hmm.
keeps on like it's hard to get out of versus when you're focusing on like opportunity and how can I
Hmm.
create and like serve others and like
Yep.
the way you create, which I think you touched on was like focusing on others instead of like focusing on my craft. Like, no, like
Hmm.
you could be a great photographer and like have your stuff locked
Hmm.
and now be able to give overflow and be like, okay, let me show up and like see what I need for clients. Like, how do I listen and not just tell them what
Yes.
I need? And I think
Yes.
it's like that balance
That's so
that
true.
like, yeah, like what you said with the bride, it's not like, oh, so what do you want to do next? Like, no, you can still guide to what they want,
Yeah.
but they're not going to mentally be like, yep, I know exactly what I want. No, they're their wedding day. They're
They've never
overwhelmed.
done this before. They have
Yeah,
no idea what to do
but you
next.
can listen yeah, but you can
Yeah.
listen to him. It's not like, "Okay, so we're gonna have 25.5 minutes of portraits, and if you're exhausted, we're gonna keep on going." No, like,
Exactly.
there's a thing where you can, like, read their body language, "Hey, we take a photo." It's like, "Hey, how are you guys doing? Like, do
Yeah.
you wanna go get a drink, get a water?" Like,
Yeah.
that's where you can have that, like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, they're still in control. It's
Yes.
just you're helping them give, like, the best options at that moment, where they're just like,
100%.
"I don't know what I can do."
Yeah.
Like, 2 weekends ago, we were shooting a wedding, she's like, "So, what am I supposed to do? Like, what do you need from me?" Like, "Hey, just you relax, but, like, hey,
Yeah.
you could do this." Jessica's, like, able to, like, guide her, like, "Okay, great," because they're just like, they don't know what they're gonna
No
do,
idea.
and, I mean, it works for, like, when you're a parent or other type of clients, like, in the commercial space, it's all, like, how do you just, I guess, like, serve, and I think that's
Yeah.
the like what is service and like listening to their needs and then helping like solve that problem instead of
Yeah.
like putting on them, making it more transactional.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but like on a day-to-day basis, like you talked about like just kind of focusing on today and not like trying to
Mhm.
get caught up in like all the anxieties. Cause I think
Mhm.
you touch on it where there's like vision where you're like looking forward to see what's possible
Mhm.
and you want to make sure you're going the right direction. Right. And I
100%.
think like what is it? Alice in Wonderland where she asked like the rabbit where to go. Do you know that quote?
It's
Like
been
it's
forever,
in a ton
but
of books.
yeah.
I haven't watched the movie, but it talks about in the one thing and like
Cool,
a ton of different business books. But
cool.
she's like, "Oh, ask the rabbit like which direction should I go?" And he's
Okay.
like, "Oh, well, where do you want to go?" And
Yeah,
she's like, "I don't know." So it's like, "Well, then it doesn't really matter which way you go."
that's so
So it's like
interesting.
I think that's where like vision is,
Yeah.
and I think there's a difference between having vision of like, okay, this is where I'm going for. I'm not
Mhm.
measuring my success off of how far away I am from that because I'm
Right,
never going to get there.
right.
But I'm measuring like I can measure success of where I've come
Yeah,
from and what I have done.
for
But
sure.
I just want to make sure I'm going the right trajectory. And I think that's like a big difference where if you're worried about like, well, what if I don't have all the solution? Like it's like this mountaintop, and what if I don't have the stuff to get up to? It's like, well, no, like I just want to make sure I'm actually going where I want to
For
go.
sure.
From there, today's I can only make changes for today. So how
That's
can I
right.
make like the input? So on that day to day level, like what does like integration versus like reacting, like how does
Mhm.
responding versus reacting like look practically? Because I think
Mhm.
it's one thing to say it like, okay, land it like I love metaphors, but
Mhm.
like Garrett on a day, I think for
Mhm.
someone if they're gonna like apply it, like what would you say is like if I don't know if you have like an example or something, but where it's
Yeah.
you could have something that could be like throwing you off, but instead you're like having
Yeah, I mean,
firm
to so,
integration.
like, I'll just give the last hour of my life. I got back from
Perfect. That was the best.
I just got back from dropping off my son at summer camp, and I was gonna come back and spend the next hour preparing for this call because I would have loved to
Mhm.
have preparation for the conversation. I like to do that, but I also feel like it messes me up a little bit because then I feel like I have to stick
Mhm.
to, like, a script that I, like, spent time thinking about. I work way
Mhm.
better off the cuff, so full
Yeah.
disclosure, I had these thoughts in my mind as I was driving, but I didn't write them down. Um,
Mhm.
the reason why is because I got home and I thought my mother-in-law was gonna help clean the house before our house cleaners came over, and that didn't happen, so I had to clean the house with my wife. So, instead of reacting and being, like, frustrated and, like,
Mhm.
anxious and, like, I actually felt so much peace. I was like, "It's gonna be fine." Like, I sat there and I cleaned the dishes and I thought through some of
Mhm.
these answers, in big, high level, um, discussion topics. So,
Mhm.
and I put the Bible on, which is, like, so not I, like, listened to audio of it because I was like, "I just need to feel
Yeah.
peace right now." Like, I could have gone to these
Mm.
places of anxiety of, like, "Well, what if I say something that's stupid?" Or, like, "What if I
Yeah.
regret something that I wish I didn't say?" But, um, I could have responded with anxiety or responded with, like, "Dude, you've been doing this for 15 years. Like, you know what you're
Yeah.
doing. You're gonna be okay, and Jonathan's awesome.
Mhm.
He's gonna take care of you. He's gonna make this conversation easy." So, like, I think that's an example, just the most fresh, real, is like
Yeah.
things are gonna happen in your day. They're gonna happen on the wedding day. They're gonna happen in your business.
Mhm.
You're gonna I had a massive wedding in July, very excited about. Biggest one of ever, highest paying. They canceled the wedding 3 months ago because the bride decided she didn't wanna marry the guy, like, I have so much grace and sadness for her in that situation, but so thankful she decided what she decided, and better to call it
Yeah.
off now, not to go through it. But for me as a business owner, that money was gonna be amazing and it would have been a great portfolio
Yeah.
piece. I loved the couple. I was like, man, this is like a dream couple. I'm sad on so many levels. I could have gone down this dark road of like sadness and man, my booking rate's down and now look at this wedding just dropped, or be like, no, like this is like you said, this is my track record. These are the successes I've had.
Mhm.
This is a portfolio I have. Gratitude, thankfulness. I went on
Mm.
and I sent her a voice message right away. I was like, I'm so sorry about this situation. Like, thinking of you, praying if she's a Christian, praying for you. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
if there's anything I can do to help you, and it all works out. Like, things just work out. And I think if you stay positive and you stay hopeful, um, it's very hard to do when you're in a place of despair and sadness and like
Yeah.
confusion. But if I don't know, man. This is something I'm exploring, but like I don't know if you've looked into quantum physics at all, and I don't know like anything about it. But Tell me.
I'm reading a book about it. So no, you
Let's
keep going. I'll
go.
tell you after. I'm
You
reading a
know
book
way
about it.
more than
I'm
I
like,
do. I'm just
no, I definitely don't.
okay.
But
I don't know from like a literary perspective or like an academic. I'm not going to speak from any of those places right now, but
hmm
I do literally feel like it's real. And I think that when
hmm
you think about and pray about and um, like actually look like with your eye in your mind, like
hmm
if you look at something visually and you think about it, I think they come to pass eventually. I
yeah,
don't know how that happens, and I'm not saying that's like a new age thing. I think it's actually like a God
yeah,
thing that has been kind of
hmm
taken different directions. But I
yeah,
think that when I think about something and I hope for something, eventually those things do come to pass. And I don't know how. I have
yeah,
no idea
yeah.
the behind the works, but my wife and I will be thinking of something totally separate. Won't have talked about it for weeks.
hmm
She'll call me and I'm literally driving thinking about that exact thing. It's the weirdest thing that happens every week almost.
Yeah.
Or like a text will come through
That's
from a
so
buddy. I'm
cool.
like, dude, I haven't talked to you in 2
Yeah.
years, but you just texted me and I was just thinking of you. It's like, I
hmm
don't know, man. There's something to it.
No,
So
I think the book I'm reading is not actually it makes me want to read an actual more like scientific on the actual like
yeah,
quantum
me
physics,
too.
but it's called it's literally the book is like a pamphlet. Like you maybe read it in like an hour or less.
I
If
gotta
you're
read
I'm
that.
a really slow reader and dyslexic, so
I
it
think
took
I
me a
am
while.
too,
But
actually.
if you're a fast reader, yeah.
As
If you're a fast
creatives.
reader, you probably
Yeah.
Jess would probably read it in like 5 minutes.
Same.
But
My wife's the same.
it's called U squared.
Okay.
But he talks about like quantum leaps, like in
Ooh.
your business, like
All right, let's
personally.
talk about that.
But yeah, okay. So with all that, like, there's this other the guy I heard it from. His name's Myron Golden, but he's like a business coach and he teaches from like a biblical perspective.
Cool.
But he teaches like also people like he's just like, yep, this is what it is. Like they're principles, and if
Mm,
a principle's true, like it has to be true in every like domain and field.
okay.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't believe in gravity, it's gonna affect you. Like
Wow.
if I don't believe in it, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the benefits and the negative of it. And
Sure.
or like from giving. Like I believe like if
Totally.
you give and like are generous, like it
Things come
flows
back.
through you. And it's
Yep.
not like a you give to get.
Nope.
It's like a it's like a if you're a conduit, right? Like if you're a conduit
Yes.
and you just like you connect people,
For
like
sure.
you're always going to be that conduit where things are flowing through versus if you're trying to be a bottleneck, like I just want to hold my bucket and like
Right.
not let it flow through me.
Right.
Like
There's no
it's going to stuck.
space.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's no space.
Yeah.
So his the U squared book he was talking about, I was like, I get so excited about it. Oh, so he what Myron Golden talks about
Yeah.
is he tells a story. He was on a plane with a physicist
Hmm.
and he asked him like what his favorite physics principle was.
Okay.
And I guess he said like that every like principle is a microcosm of itself.
Okay.
I forget, I'm totally butchering it. But
It's fine.
basically it was
Yeah.
like if something's true in one area, it has to be true in another. So
Uh-huh.
if there's like a principle that's true in like physics, it has to be true in finance, and it has to be true in relationships.
Yeah.
Which is like so it's like wait,
That's cool.
what? Or like with getting to the so that's like the idea. So if you have like the 80-20 rule, for instance, are you familiar with the 80-20 rule?
I think so, but just tell me where you're going with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give my quick thing because it's like
Yeah.
my favorite rule. So if you haven't heard of
Okay.
it, it changed our business and like that's what helped us like grow and work less.
Awesome.
Basically, I could do a whole video on it, but
Mm.
the core of it is 80% of your output
Mhm.
comes from 20% of your input. So only 20% of what you're doing
Yep.
gets you like 80%. So like if
Yeah.
you look at your time in like business, like only 20% of what you're spending time doing will get you 80% of that output.
Yeah.
Which also means 80% of what you spend your time doing only gets 20%. But
Interesting.
the guy who discovered it was like an Italian economist or something. And he basically discovered that like 80% of the wealth was like held by 20% of the population
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But then he's like, but also your output of like what you spend your time on. So
Wow.
with that, where was I going with that? We were talking about the
Quantum
80-20
physics
rule.
and how
Quantum
everything
physics.
has like a reaction in different parts of
Mhm.
sectors of society,
Yeah, so
finances, all that.
yeah, exactly. So you like
Yeah.
have it all the same. So like in quantum, the book U squared, he's talking about how like the idea of quantum leaps
Mm.
and how like quantum physics are, and it's just how something could actually go like way further and jump
Mm.
farther with less effort
Mhm. Right.
versus like how so much we get stuck trying to like grind harder,
For
thinking
sure.
that's the output. Where
Right.
he gives this great story. Like the first page of the book is he's like sitting writing. I think he's like writing that book, and there's this like buzzing, and it's a fly trying to get out the window.
Okay.
And he's like, it's like this deathly struggle. And it's just like flying, hitting the window over and over and over again. He's like, and eventually it dies.
Yeah.
He's like, that thing was working really, really hard.
Wow.
But if it would have just turned around within seconds, it would have been free out to the
That's
outdoors.
right.
Like it would have been free. Like its freedom was right there and it
Mm.
would have been way easier,
Yep.
like life giving. So he
Yep.
used that as an example to see like so often we're
Wow.
stuck thinking this is the only way. And we're just like
Yep.
grinding harder and harder, just like dying when a
Yes.
lot of times there's actually, but if we don't even give ourselves like open up our mind to that being a possibility, like
Yeah.
you can't even like go. Does that make sense? Like it was like a really interesting. Yeah.
It 100% makes sense, and that's where I was going earlier in talking
Hmm.
about, like, the difference between integration versus balance is, like, I think when
Yeah.
I'm on a balance beam, I'm constantly living in fight or flight or freeze. You can add that in there too,
Mm. Yeah.
because you're like, at any point, I could fly off this thing, and it's
Uh
completely out of
huh.
my control. So, like, if your viewers aren't listening or familiar with the fight, flight, or freeze, basically, it's this, like, um, psychology term that, like, when you are living in basically like trauma mode almost, where you're like, at any
Hmm.
point, I need to respond to this situation, fighting. You could
Yeah.
freeze, which is like, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I'm just gonna stay quiet and
Hmm.
not say anything. Or you could peace out. We do this in conversations with our spouses or family when we're in conflict, right?
Yeah.
Versus like um, the other one, which I think you just described. So like the fly analogy, if they're like constantly going
Hmm.
at the window, they're in fight, flight, or freeze. He's just fighting
Yeah.
that thing. He's like, I got to get out of this
Hmm.
room. Versus like integration is like, let me look around. Let me see, is
Mm.
there another way out? You know? Is there another option here that I'm not thinking of? And you're not like your brain stops functioning at its highest level when you're in fight or flight or freeze. That's why when we say things when we're in
Mm.
conflict with people, we say things that are so dumb. And we look back and we're like, why
Yeah.
did I say that? Like that was so mean or like not me? And
Hmm.
so when we're living out of a place of groundedness and we're staying present, we're staying attuned, we're compassionate for the other person, we're creative, and we're thinking of how can I like creatively not be stuck in this situation, which I feel like
Yeah.
is the balance beam. Like there's
Hmm.
no room for creativity on the balance beam. You're just constantly focused and fixated in your narrow, like, tunnel vision of, like, "I just gotta stay on the balance beam," you know? Versus,
Mm.
like, "Man, there's so many other things I could be doing right now, like, let's look at a different
Yeah.
option." And so, I think finances are the number one thing for me that can cause that tunnel vision. It's like, "Crud.
Hmm.
These are my expenses this month, and this is
Yeah.
my income." So we go narrow and we think,
Hmm.
I just gotta make more money, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then we start to lower our prices or we start to take jobs on that we wish we wouldn't take. And there's no shame in that. And I've done that even just like in the last
Hmm.
little bit. I think it's
Yeah.
important to take care of your family and put food on the table. And it's
Yeah.
important to like get through harder seasons. But I don't wanna operate my business only doing that constantly.
Hmm.
There comes a
Yeah.
time where you need to, like, maybe cut some things out. Maybe you don't spend money on
Hmm.
this or that, or you don't buy every new preset that comes out? Like, just being confident in who you are and what you offer in your craft, and once you find that place of stability, then you can start to hone in on bigger things, and a friend of mine, Brandon Kidd, he has a whole thing that he does, like, with helping people with finances, and, he has, like, a whole separate side of bringing in money, which is, like, through real estate and
Hmm.
investment, and I think that's so cool because it takes the
Yeah.
pressure off of making money through photography, which is an art form,
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Hmm.
You have to create space for creativity, otherwise you'll squelch
Yeah.
the craft? I'm not
Totally.
speaking from a place of experience, I don't have, like, outside income, so that's
Hmm.
where I'm like, if I'm being real right now, like, I would love as a husband and father and owner of business to, like, have other streams of income so that I don't feel like I'm just constantly, like, punching the photography,
Hmm.
thing and hoping that it bounces back the return.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just going along the analogy you're describing of, like, the fly
Hmm.
is, like, how can you create
Yeah.
space in your finances, in your relationships, whatever it is that you need, so that you're not just striving, but you're like, no, like I got this coming in,
Yeah.
this coming in. I can just like really enjoy the thing that is photography or videography or my
Hmm.
family or whatever it is that you feel like you're
Yeah.
just constantly like ugh, I'm frustrated right now. Like, why aren't things working the way I want them to work? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, that's like, oh, there's so much good stuff on there. I didn't even realize. So when you talked about fight, flight, or freeze,
Yeah.
we did like a thing with our community group. Our friend that's a therapist, like she was going through like, she's like does a EFT,
Yeah.
like emotionally based therapy,
Yeah.
and
My
like,
wife too.
um,
Yeah.
is that the same one?
Same
Okay, I
thing.
couldn't remember if it's the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so
Emotionally
cool.
focused
It's like
therapy. Yep.
not. It's like you hear about it like what, and then you're like, whoa, this like makes so much
It's
sense. But
awesome.
she was breaking down that same like the negative cycle.
Yep.
I was she we actually recorded a podcast with her, and like we kind of talked about how it applies to business, but this
Mm.
like gave me more insight to it where like with balance too. So like you're talking about like the fight, flight, or freeze is like, okay, the be like fighting to get through the window. It's the same thing if you're in a relationship and you get in a fight,
That's right.
right? Versus you get like you fight, so you start fighting back, or you kind of withdraw,
Hmm.
and then the other person takes that, and you just both. You could probably give a better
No,
example
yeah, that's
after this of like the actual like
totally.
cycle.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember. There's like a whole thing, but we always call her. I'm like, we'll be like, yes, we
Help
get it.
us
And I'm
out.
like, I have like issue with like family, and I'm like, wait, what is it again? She's like, it's really, and she always makes it sound so simple, but
Wow.
that same
It's a
idea in
good friend.
business where it's like, okay, yeah, dude, best friend, have a friend. I mean, or marry a therapist is even
Yeah.
better.
Very
So,
therapist.
yeah,
Yep.
and if not, or get a really good friend to be one.
Exactly.
So you're talking about like that in business though, where when
Hmm.
you hit like finances, like for
Hmm.
instance, like we're the same way where it's like, okay, we get into the winter and it's like, shoot, like
Hmm.
there's
What
not
are we
money
doing?
for a few months. So
Right.
now it's like if you turn into like fight, flight, you're just like either I'm freezing, I'm not doing
Yep.
anything, or I'm just
You're
like
scared.
running away, I'm scared, and
Yeah.
we're just like, let's cut everything
Yeah.
or like sell the house. Like
Yeah.
you
You
just
do
kind of go into
things,
like survival mode.
these silly things. You're like, why did I
Yeah.
do that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Cause you're not, cause like, oh, that's where I was going. So you touched on it a second, but I want to talk more about like
Mm.
the actual like science behind when you're in fight, flight, or freeze and how
Yes.
your brain actually shuts down
Yes.
and you can't think.
You're only using
So
like
if you
the
can't
front,
think,
whatever
yeah,
part. Yeah.
yeah, whatever the part, I don't even know what it is, but if you can't make good decisions, it's like scientifically, like you actually can't think. Like your
Yep.
brain, you go black, or and if it's really bad, I think is it like just the like what's it called, the reptilian brain, whatever
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like just to keep you alive, like the where
Yes.
you like
The
curl up in a ball
survival
type of
mode.
thing.
Yeah. For
So it's
sure.
like you can't make good
Yep.
decisions versus, and that's like the balance because you're like, well,
That's
if I
right.
get, it's you're operating out of fear because if you're balancing and if like I get knocked over by this,
Yep.
like I'm not going to be
That's
okay.
right.
Whether it's like I'm going to like die or whatever. So
Exactly.
on the business, I know on like relationally, we talked to her, it's like, oh, like with kids, for instance, like your
Mm.
kid's driving you crazy. Instead of like yelling back, most people would be like, yeah, yelling at my kid probably isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
But if they're misbehaving, like talking about, instead of just doubling down and be like, no, you have to listen to dad. It's
Right.
like getting curious of like, okay,
Mhm.
well, why are they really upset? And you may
Exactly.
realize, oh, they have a thorn in their pants. Or
Yeah.
like, there's a different reason why they're so upset.
Right.
And that's the same way in business though. Like if you can take a second and breathe and like instead respond to the situation instead of react, where
Yeah.
like I guess reacting is like letting the outside forces change your internal like temperature.
Exactly.
Like your spouse like says something to you, and in that moment you could either be like, well, no, like let me like fight back,
Yeah.
or let me hear why she may be upset about
For
this.
sure.
And now I could like understand, oh, there's like a deeper reason. So like on the
Exactly.
business side, like I guess if like our friend Sarah, she always talks about like getting curious, like it's the
Yep.
simplest way of like, okay, someone's like getting upset and offending you. Instead of
Yep.
like fighting back, you're like, okay, well, like tell me more.
Right.
And then the people are like, wait, what the heck? What do you mean tell me more? It's
Right.
like, yeah, tell me more. I want to know why, like, why are you upset?
Yeah. Help me understand.
But on the business side, like, what is it like when things are in crisis mode,
Yeah.
responding with curiosity
Mm.
of like, okay, well, why, like, let's figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe there is something that we could fix that's actually solving the problem instead of just like surviving.
Yeah.
Right.
Or making up a reason that's like actually not true. Like, I think for me, it's easy when I'm in a really dark place is like, man, you're just not a good photographer, you know? Or
Mm-hmm.
like right now, there's a lot of styles out there that are all across the
Yeah.
board, right?
Yeah.
People are like editing photos without even editing them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of joking, but like there's such a wide variety of perspectives right now in our industry, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love the diversity, but you can go down these roads of like of negative thought patterns of like, man, why is it that I'm not booking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
Yeah.
this or that? And some of them might be true, and maybe you need to like actually do the hard work to like
Yeah.
adjust and shift. But some of them are pretty wild and like not actually true. It's like, no, I know I'm a good
Yeah.
photographer. I know that people
Mm-hmm.
like working with me. It's just maybe you haven't called that person in a little while that gave you a lot of business a couple years ago and now your numbers are down, you know?
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
it's sometimes way more simple than it
Yeah.
actually seems, but it's really easy to go down these it's so like what you said earlier, it's like what happens if you fall off the balance beam? I think that's actually
Hmm.
like the question and so many of us are so afraid as business owners to face that actual fear of like,
Mm.
Garrett, what would happen if you fell off the beam today? Like, would your
Hmm.
business crumble? Would your family have no more income? Would you get hurt? Would you be
Hmm.
sad? Would you be angry? Would you be, you know, it's like I think we're so afraid of just looking at what would actually happen if we fell off. So we're just constantly trying
Hmm.
not to fall because we're so afraid of what we
Mm.
look like when we fall, you
Yeah.
know? And I think the
Hmm.
more successful you get, the scarier it is to fall. Like if you're Jose Villa,
Because it feels like you're higher up. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was at Engage and I was in a room with him and 20 other photographers, and people were asking him, like, you are at the top, quote unquote, whatever that even means.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's harder to be there because like everyone's watching you basically? And like, what
Hmm.
happens if you were to make a decision that would cause you to do this, that? And like, yeah, I'm not going to share his story because it's his, but like, he basically just agreed, like, yes, it is way harder when you get to my level. The anxiety is
Hmm.
higher, the fear is higher, the fear of loss or whatever it is of staying at
Yeah.
that level. And so, I think the more you evolve in your business and even as a family or whatever dream you're going after, if it's creating a separate side business, like if you
Yeah.
can again just stay curious like you're saying and be like,
Hmm.
okay, if I fall off this thing, I think I actually will be okay, you know,
Yeah.
versus oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a mess, you know? Um,
Yeah. Totally. No, I think that's just, I mean, that's the same thing. What's your fear? Like if it's in relationships, you're like, okay, well, if this happens, like just, well, what's your fear? Like
yeah,
getting to that
yeah,
because like sometimes it is almost more like we have fear of the unknown
100%.
usually. So it's like, okay, well, if I don't know like finance, for instance,
Yeah,
like if we're struggling, like even me and Jessica, like we were talking yesterday where we hadn't had a time to like sit down and actually look at where things were at. And it's
right.
like, okay, things are okay right now. In the summer, it's kind of like, okay, like
Yeah,
money's flying in, money's flying out. And then it's like, shoot, but like, what about November,
right.
December? And it's like, okay, like, because a lot of times, like historically, we're like, it's way tighter
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, where are we actually at? But it's kind of
Mhm.
like the closet where you shove everything in and you don't
Exactly.
want to like
You don't wanna
touch
look
it.
at it. Yeah.
But yeah, but it's always more scary before. And once you look at it, it can still may not be as pretty as you want it to
Right.
be, but you can start putting things together and actually make like a good plan of action.
Exactly.
But I like what you said about like going down. Sometimes like we fight to stay on that balance
Yeah.
beam where
It's
actually
safer.
we would actually be way better to just get off
Just
of it.
just
But
yeah.
we don't want to get off of it ourselves because it looks like failing. It's like
Right.
I heard someone was talking about a podcast like people working out or lifting weight. It's not the fear of like if they're in their garage by themselves,
Yeah.
like, oh, they'd try to lift weight. Like,
Right.
but if you're at a gym and you see the failure, it's like so it's not
Mm.
failure, it's like the perception of failure to others.
Yes.
And people don't want to like look like a failure.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, if you can identify what is your actual fear and like
Yep.
one, do people even really care?
Yep.
But I think it can be really helpful, especially when you're in that like if like bookings and stuff where you're just
Mhm.
like, okay, now I'm just gonna like lower you just start like panicking to try to like
Yeah.
solve the
Yeah.
problem when really there may be a totally different pivot.
Mhm.
And focus more on identity of like who you are.
Mhm.
And there's this other podcast, Chris Harder, he's like a business coach. And he talked about like him and his wife, they went through this, like, I think in '08 they like lost everything or
Mm.
'09. And they're like sold everything, like selling their furniture, this whole thing.
Mm.
And what him and his wife did, like, they're like, how do we get bigger than the problem ourselves so
Yeah.
that we never go through it again?
Right.
But instead of just focusing on like the what problem, like it's always a who, like who's are always the solutions to the how. So like
Okay.
whether it's somebody else or internally.
Yeah.
So like now they're like have like a multi-million-dollar business, crazy successful. They do
Wow.
coaching and have all these other. It's like really cool where it's like wow, and they're like super open about like how they do stuff, and it's like
Wow.
really cool. But like that concept where I think is like it's not how you do something, right?
Yeah.
It's like who it is, like
Yeah.
well, and that like is like true whether it's like so trying to figure out like how to fix the problem, like you could find someone that's already done it that
Right.
can help you do it, or like how do you become the person that makes it easy? I mean,
Right.
and it gets, I mean, to me, it's like also like if you go like the spiritual side, it's like if it's more like who instead of like religion is like
Mm.
based on how do you do something
Doing.
yourself
Right.
versus like okay, if you're like a Christian, you're like okay, like well, what if I focus on who did it for me, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think it's like it's just interesting how it's like, and that gets back through where I'm like, oh, things are true across like different domains, which is just crazy. Like it's just such a
Yeah.
cool thing once you like, it's like, well, this is crazy.
Cool.
Where like you could focus on like, what is like, how do I become the person
Mhm.
that would be bigger than the
Yeah.
problem, right? Like, I think it's like an interesting thing because you're like, okay, now I focus on like my identity.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I was like, it was like getting into have you read Atomic Habits?
I've like parts of it, yeah, and I know kind of
Okay.
some of the gist, but yeah.
Yeah. There's that one. And then there's also Craig Rochelle wrote a book, Power to Change. That
Mhm.
book like changed, but that's helped me like I started reading because I read that book.
Wow.
But it's
Cool.
just talking about like breaking down of like your life is a result of who you are. And if you break down who you are, it's like
Yeah.
it's your inputs, like what you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
So if you break down like, oh, what are your inputs are going to give your outputs. But
Yes.
then it's kind of like a cycle because you make decisions based on who you are.
Yes.
So if you're like if you're an athlete, you work out.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to like it's not like an effort because
No.
that's just who you are. But if
Exactly.
you're not, so it starts with identity. So if you have like
Yes.
identity,
That's good.
that's yeah. So it's like you have identity determines your actions. Your actions determine what's your input,
Yep.
and your input determines who you are. And it's like this cycle.
Yep.
So if
So
you're
true.
getting stuck where you're like in that grind, you're just reacting.
Yep.
You're gonna it's that cycle and it's just this negative thing. Just like relationships, you get a negative cycle with your spouse and you fight, which causes like
Right.
disconnection. And the further disconnection you have,
Right.
it's just like a negative
It's so true.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Which yeah.
I love that, man. That's so wise. What you've described earlier about emotionally focused therapy, like that whole concept,
Mhm.
it comes out of a place of like, um, there's these attachments that they talk about. Like we
Mhm.
build attachments with our spouses, with our friends, our family,
Mhm.
even a dog or our work, you know. So we have an attachment to our work. And basically that just means like we build a relationship in like the most simple terms
Mhm.
with these concepts or these people. And you know, do we have a healthy attachment or a unhealthy attachment is essentially like the scale of
Mm.
like looking at the thing that you're looking at. Healthy attachments can sometimes come from like maybe places of trust. You know, you built trust with that attachment. Maybe unhealthy attachments is like you've had a traumatic experience or like they've said something but
Mhm.
actually done the opposite, you know. And I think for work we can have a really healthy attachment with our work or we can have a very unhealthy attachment with our work, you know. um,
Mm.
and gosh, I forget where I was going with that, but you sparked that thought and I was thinking about that because oh yes, so John Gottman is this relationship expert. He has this institute up in Washington. He's incredible. He does all these
What's his name?
John Gottman, and it's called the Gottman Institute.
Okay.
And if you're a therapist, like you know, he's like one of the goats in that industry. And so basically, he says that every relationship, 70% of their conflict is going to happen repeatedly, or something like that. Where basically, it's like saying, yeah. So it's saying like, you know, my wife and I, we have like a set of issues that keep coming up. And what that data point gives you the freedom to realize is like, man, we're not broken. Like our relationship isn't bad. Like
Mhm.
we are meant to be together. We've, you know, yesterday was 15 years since we first met, which was like, that's awesome. Yeah,
That's so
I
cool.
know. When we have conflict, it's like giving you permission to be like, okay, I'm gonna isolate the conflict right now and be like, here it is. Here's our 70% again. And usually it's around like
Mm.
my time, like how I spend my time and my lack or awareness of, ooh, I took longer to edit this thing. I told Meg I'd be back by 5
Mhm.
or whatever it is. And I'm
Yeah.
back at 5:30 and she's frustrated. That could be an example of that.
Yeah.
But these are things that they come up 70% of the time all the time. Sound like Anchorman. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's just like, okay, like again, I'm gonna isolate this issue and look at it for what it is and just be like, here we go again.
Mhm.
And what are we gonna do about it? Versus like just being constantly frustrated. Like, here you like, Garrett, you know, you don't respect me. You don't you like we go into those
Mhm.
cycles as couples or
Yeah.
whatever, or we go into it with our work of like, here we go again. My bookings are down. And you get frustrated
Mhm.
with yourself. Well, maybe like you've built an attachment with your business, and every time something comes up for you, maybe it's bookings are down, or your edits aren't as
Mhm.
strong, or like you're looking at other people's work and you're comparing constantly. Maybe again, like to come back to what you're saying earlier about being curious, like, okay, I'm on Instagram right now and I'm feeling really bad about my work because everyone else's work looks so good, or everyone's getting
Mhm.
really nice weddings and mine don't look as nice, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of like going to that shame place of whatever that is, say, okay, like, I've actually booked some really good weddings lately. I'm really excited about in the next year, and I don't know what they're going to look like, but they
Mhm.
might look great.
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
my bookings, my rates have actually gone up over the last 3 years versus like
Yeah.
staying where I was for 3 years prior. Like, there's so many things that we overlook about our success in the past that we need to give ourselves credit. Like, you're doing okay.
Mhm.
Like, you need to give yourself some
Yeah.
grace right now and speak kindly. And I was thinking this other day, you know, I feel like how we talk to ourselves is, like, how we see ourselves is how we will then see
Mhm.
others. Like, so if I'm really
Mm.
critical of myself, I might be really critical to my son Ryder or to my wife. Like, if they do
Mm.
something that I'm like, gosh darn it, like I wish they would have done that differently. I might speak in the same tone to them that I've been speaking to myself all week because I've been really critical about X, Y, or Z business wise.
Mhm.
So whatever is going on
Yeah.
in here, whatever is that rotating or revolving door of,
Mhm.
maybe it's criticism or comparison or whatever,
Yeah.
we just got to really hold those thoughts captive and be like, no, that's actually not true. I
Mhm.
am a good photographer, whatever it is. Again, that example that comes
Yeah.
back, because then you can speak identity of yourself, like you just talked about. And then
Mhm.
now, when Ryder, my son, does something, I'm like, dude, he biffed it. I don't have to be so reactive and critical of him. I can actually just be like,
Mhm.
hey, buddy, it's okay. I know that that was hard for you. What if we did
Yeah.
like this? Because you're really good at that. Like, I know you can do it. You
Mhm.
know, it's so much easier to like do that for other people than it is to do for yourself. But I
Yeah.
feel like if we can be really aware and kind to ourselves in those moments versus so harsh or critical, it can just like free us up to be a way more grounded person.
Mm.
So,
No, I love that. I mean, the idea of like everything starts in the mind, and I think it's
mhm.
like by default, usually if we're asking for advice for somebody, like mindset isn't the answer we want. We're like, yo,
Yeah,
what's a tactical thing you're actually doing?
yeah,
Because it's like we want to repeat it, but
right.
it's so true because it's like the mind. Like I was reading this book. It's like how to take your like it's like going from six figures to seven figures.
Nice.
And it's funny. The whole like first couple of chapters are just about like mindset.
Uh-huh. You're
And he's
like,
like, yeah, I know you want to like what he's like, I'll get to the steps, but if you don't get your mindset right,
yep,
like it's going to be impossible because how
literally.
you think is a result of it's where it all starts. So if you're
Bingo.
limited mindset, meaning like this is a field of
Yeah.
possibility, you're never gonna go like I was like journaling and I was like, the mindset's like it's like playing a game,
Yeah.
like a board game,
Yeah.
and you're operating with a different set of instructions. Like you
Yeah.
added all this restrictions just because you thought that was a
For
rule. And it's
sure.
like someone's like, oh, you could re-roll the dice as much as you want. And you're like, what are you talking about? And
Yeah.
you're like, well, yeah, of course you're gonna like not do like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be limited to that ability. So
So true.
that idea of mindset is just so true.
It's good.
Along I want to read it again because it kind of like ties back to EFT a little bit.
Mm.
I'm a total book nerd. Sorry.
No, I can tell.
Have you heard of The One Truth?
No.
Okay. It's the only book. Fun fact, I'm a really slow reader if I already said that.
Yeah.
But it's the only book that I've sat down and read like cover to cover in
Wow.
one sitting. We
Wow.
went to which it's not that long though, so it's not that impressive. But
Yeah.
like I said, just go to read it quick. But I like early, I forget when it was, when one of the girls were little, like we would take there's this spa called Refuge in Carmel Valley.
Mm.
It has like next time you're back, you should
Yeah.
definitely go. It's sweet. They have like saunas,
Ooh.
steam rooms, and they have like cold plunges and hot tubs. So you
Amazing.
do like this cycle. So you like, oh dude, I can talk enough
Sounds
about it. It's like the
amazing.
best. So
Yeah.
we kind of made this agreement that me and Jess, like if either of us are overwhelmed at any point, we could be like, hey, one of us is gonna go.
Yep.
We'd like trade off and on. So
Love that.
I was there and I brought the book and I was like, oh, I should read this book. And I read it cover to cover. I ended up being in the hot tub too long though, so I got sick after because I was like
Oh,
in it for like 3 hours.
that's
But it was a
amazing.
really good book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. I like always vividly remember that. But he talks about it talks about like taking your thought every thought captive
Yep.
and understanding like he breaks it down into high mind and low mind. So he's
Mhm.
the author, I'm totally forgetting his name, but he's like a performance coach. So he'll like he's coached like NFL teams, NBA
Mm.
teams, like executives and stuff. And he breaks it down just simply of like you have like your high mind and low mind.
Mhm.
And when you're in your high mind, it's like there's few thoughts and you're very focused and
Yeah.
you're like in the it's like being in
The
the creative
flow.
flow. You're just
Yeah.
like you're saying like that's all you're focusing on and you're
Yep.
crushing it.
That's right.
When you get to the low mind, you have like he like has like two circles. Like it's literally like you have like a big circle with like two dots,
Yep.
and then you have like a circle with like dots. Like actually, I'm like drawing. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but like it's like a what is
Yeah.
it? Like you have like two circles, like a lot of thoughts, little thoughts,
Yep.
and when you're having all these thoughts, you're so scatterbrained, and
Yeah.
that's when you're in like the fight or flight.
That's
You're just
right.
like, what's going
Right.
on? You have all these thoughts, and you just can't
Distraction.
even like think straight.
Yep.
versus when you have few thoughts and you're able to do it. And he just talks about like it's a natural, like it flows up and down. And
Yeah.
if you think something's wrong with me when I'm in that low mind,
Right.
and you think it's like he basically breaks it down of the reality of like thoughts come from places other than
Yeah.
yourself. And he like you could read the book. It's like if someone like so it was like, wait, what the heck? Like he even talks about he had clients that were like struggling with depression and
Yeah.
stuff. And they're like, well, I can't believe I would have these bad thoughts. And he's like, well,
Mm.
where did nightmares come from? Like, why would
Mhm.
you ever make sense to have a bad
Yeah.
dream? Like, why would you have that on yourself? Like, it makes no
Right.
sense. Like, so he breaks it down like practically, and then
Wow.
he's like, wait, so like if the thoughts aren't coming from me, like I'm not flawed.
Right.
Like that's not a problem with me. It's like it's something. So it's like, okay, what does it look like to take every thought captive?
For sure.
So it's cool. He also breaks down the book. So if you're not religious or like whatever, like he's very like more just like this is what I teach my clients. And then the second half of the book is more of like his like spiritual like beliefs and stuff. And
Cool.
like he has a cool story. He was like studied like Buddhism and all these things, and like he's a Christian now, but he like basically just kind of broke down like his own journey.
Wow.
But the first half he just kept it very just like practically. If you just want tools to like be a better performer and like just very practically, and then the second half is like if you're curious, here you go, which I thought was really cool. But
Wow.
that idea is just so interesting because it's like if you don't, when you're in those lulls, if you feel like it's like something wrong with you,
Yeah.
you're gonna stay there.
Yep.
Versus if you realize like, hey, maybe I just need to go on a run
Yeah.
or like go spend some quiet time or like
Yep.
it's okay and like give myself permission. And not make like a decision that while you're in those low minds too.
No,
Like
literally.
if you're
It's
like
so true.
maybe if you're like stressed, like maybe don't be sending out pricing for like weddings and stuff if you're in that low mind. Because
Yeah.
if you operate like out of insecurity
Yeah.
versus insecurity, it's like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Right.
And that gets back to like that foundation of
Mhm.
like where you like making those business decisions out of.
Yep.
So and just like and then that comes back to like just what are you getting your inputs from?
For
Like
sure.
if you don't have like support,
Yep.
like if people speaking into you,
Yep.
like how can you like
Mhm.
I don't know, like operate out of it? Is there
Yeah.
for you like has there been a time like in your business where you grew where like you started having like feeling like isolated, like ways that you've like had support to not be as like alone, like
Yeah.
running your business?
100%. A lot. I think there's so many times, but I've really been getting more dialed into this concept that there's so many different resources out there. There's so many different opinions
Hmm.
on what to do next. And I think coaching is
Yeah.
very valuable. I actually offer that to photographers. I
Hmm.
love to be able to sit with others and like hear their story and hear where they're at. Almost like a therapist would or pastor, just
Yeah.
like talk to me and then I'm going to help reflect back to you what I'm hearing. I think that's
Yeah.
valuable. However, I think when we go off and we try to buy these one-off things that we think are going to be the solution to what we're challenged with, they might help
Hmm.
like in small ways, but I don't
Yeah.
think they're going to move the needle too much. I think we have a very strong intuition as just humans, and
Hmm.
especially for me, I believe that like when you tap into the Holy Spirit, which is like this just treasure chest of wisdom and discernment that we can tap into what we really need in that moment. And that's kind of what I talked about earlier is like
Hmm.
taking it one day at a time and not trying to get too far ahead of yourselves. Cause I am such an ideas person. I'm such a visionary. I can get so excited, for better or worse,
Hmm.
about what to
Yeah.
do next and how to grow and how to build and how to expand and all of that. But it might actually like cripple you. It might actually like leave you in a place of like frustration and biting off more than you can chew and then not actually you know overcoming fulfilling that dream, and then you go into self-doubt of like oh, just not good enough or whatever. It's that cycle. It's
Hmm.
like no, 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 take one day at a time. And yeah, mentors, people in your life are so important, but like I've put less um, like stock into the leaders and the biggest names in the industry to give me the wisdom that I think I need to run my business, and
Hmm.
just to be like, I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna integrate again some of these tweaks, but I'm not gonna lean into them to be
Hmm.
like, well, if I could just copy exactly what KT Mary's doing, I'm gonna be the next KT. It's like,
Yeah.
no, she's her own person.
Hmm.
Garrett, you are your own
Yeah.
person. You will have your own success when the time is right and in the ways that it needs to happen versus like trying to replicate everything everyone else is doing. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. I think that's really interesting because there's like you touched on like two things, but they're actually like they at first could almost sound conflicting, but they're not. Like
Yeah.
with the coaching, because I'm like, I do think it's like what you're taking in is gonna like if you're just listening to people that are negative, like you're going to not have positive stuff. Like, so you need to have
Right.
that positive influence, but
Mm,
the scarcity is thinking like, okay, there's only one way to do it. So I just need to copy whoever's doing it that's
correct.
successful.
Yep.
But then it doesn't feel like you because there's only like, we're all uniquely made.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you can find, okay, it's okay for me to do something different.
Totally.
Right. Like I can lean into that. But when I
Yes.
try to like not be authentic to who I am, like it's not going to work.
Yes.
Like it's, and I think that's where we get caught up when we're insecure.
Yes.
Now we start looking outside of ourselves and be like, okay, what can I do to like, that's where we focus on lack of what I'm not enough
Yes.
versus like, okay, if I can focus on who I am or whose I am, of like, okay, if I have like my identity,
Yeah.
like whether it's like in Christ or whoever, like if you realizing that I need to have something outside of that
Right.
to feel like I have that firm foundation, and then I can be like authentic to who I am, and I don't need to depend on other people's like
Yeah.
approval,
Success.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
like success. But yeah, I think so. If you don't with that, like I think the coaching, like there's like the coaching that's like, okay, just copy me.
Totally.
Or like this is the way to do it versus like you're saying, like if I could put up a mirror,
Yeah.
like therapy of like, okay,
Literally.
like, what is it? Like, cause like when I've like coached people, it's like, okay, they may be like, oh, how do you do this for like
Right.
commercial? Like, cause we have like a commercial brand. I'm like, okay, but like, let's first talk through like, what does your life look like
Yeah.
and what are your personal goals? Because this may not make sense for you, right?
Exactly.
Like if you want to be traveling or like, do you have kids? Do you not have kids? What's your, like, there's so much more.
Yeah.
And also what fires you up.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that like, I don't like doing
Yeah.
that I try to like get off my plate.
Yeah.
But other people like love it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
there's certain things like shooting as much, like for me, like as I've been like my like thing that I love is like helping people find like the value that's available to them.
Yeah.
Like helping them like thrive and like see like, oh, there's this opportunity for you. Like, let me just help you like show the mirror and be like, no, it's like, it's right here. I'm not like
Yeah.
creating my own idea of it. It's just like, how can I listen and
Right.
then reflect that back? But we all have different like skill sets. And I think if you can lean into that, it's a really
Yeah.
cool thing to get permission to do. You know?
Exactly.
Versus like you're saying, versus just trying to copy like what other people are doing and that's success.
Exactly.
And I think the other scary thing that it does is it creates this like false ceiling
Yeah.
of like, okay, like for instance, like someone like Jose or someone who's like at the top and think, okay, well, here's the ceiling and that's what's possible for me if I'm in this lane.
Right.
And I'm not him, so I can't even get there versus like, well, that's okay, but
Right.
you could be different. And it's not like
Yep.
measuring up. It's just
Mhm.
like, how do you like kind of like pursue more of like what you were made to do
Yeah.
and continue to like lean into your genius of like
Totally.
your God-given abilities.
Totally.
And then it's like, you're playing a totally different game because
Yeah.
you're not actually competing.
You're not.
You know, like you're actually focusing on like who you are.
Yeah.
Sorry, all these books
It's good.
in the Simon Sinek wrote, I think Start With Why or The Infinite Game. There's two, but like he talks about the difference of like businesses that are like focused on competition and like he kind of contrasted like Microsoft and Apple.
Okay.
And he was at like this Microsoft conference and they're talking about, yeah, we're going to take Apple down this year. This is what we're going to do. But then he was at an Apple one and they're not even talking
No.
about like, they don't care. They're just like, how do we get a product that's better than what we're even making? Like they're
Exactly.
like self-sabotaging their own product line
Yeah.
because they're just like, we want to think different and like
Yes.
push the envelope.
For sure.
Which is totally two different things. So it's like
For sure.
one is being competitive, like in a healthy way against yourself.
Sure.
Of like, how could I keep on like stripping away all the things that aren't totally me and like,
Right.
reveal like the David, like, I mean, like there's an example
Yeah.
in this book, 10x is easier than 2x. And he's like, he talks about who's the one that made the David, the statue. Do you know?
Michelangelo.
History, are you a history guy? Thank you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And he talked about how like it's to create the David, like you had to remove everything
Yep.
else. So like you're talking about like how do we like remove and like give constraint to like really focus your
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And to cycle back something when you're talking about time, I want to talk about a little bit of like you said not to have a scarcity mindset,
Mhm.
but I do like I was writing because I'm like very anti-scarcity. Like
Yeah.
I think like that idea of focus on scarcity and poverty is like evil and not
Yeah.
good. And like we were made to have like abundance and like
Yep.
thrive. And
Yep.
but it's not that if you don't have money or if you're in poverty, you're bad. It's
No.
just like you're
situation.
experiencing like something that's like of lack,
Yep.
right? But like you're made for more and it's possible. So it's not just like if you have money, you're not well, it's like what you're experiencing. So
Totally.
where's I going with that? We're talking sorry, I get excited.
No, you're good. The book that you're reading.
Time.
Time. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Time. So like when I was doing that, I'm like, really the only thing though that's scarce, like money, you can always make more money.
Yeah.
Like wealth, like there's all these opportunities.
Yeah.
But really the one thing that is actually a scarce resource is time.
Yeah. Can't ever get
Like
it back.
that's the only thing you can't get back.
Yep.
Like time with your kids, like
Never.
you can literally like people say like time is money, but
Yeah.
it's like it's
It's way
infinitely
more
more,
than that.
valuable.
Yeah.
Like if I told you like, hey, like I'll give you $10 million right now,
wouldn't-
but you're gonna die tomorrow.
Yeah. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, you're like, well, what does it matter,
Yeah.
right? Like so but so much time people get caught up in like trading time or how do I like charge more for my time? But if you
Right.
realize like time is infinitely more valuable. So
Yeah.
like you need to feed your family, but like finding like what are you spending your time on?
Yes.
And I think there's finds like the magic is if you can find yourself doing what you
Yeah.
love and then like do it at a higher level. But
Yeah.
um like how's that changed like too like the way you approach like wanting to pursue business growth, but also
Mm,
like having that time with like family
100%.
or like finding time was important.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a little bit earlier of like delegating things that you don't
Mm-hmm.
thrive doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I agree. I think there's people out there that are way better at editing or album design
Mm-hmm.
or like emails. Like those are things that I'm happy to delegate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes like it's not fully possible and that's okay. Editing is a tricky one because you have a very particular way of doing things, but
Mm-hmm.
I think if you can like trust someone enough to get like half of it done or more, and then you can kind
Mm-hmm.
of put your own final spin on it to get some of that time back.
Yeah.
But yeah, time is really, really, really important to me right now, especially because my kids are so young. So like I
Yeah.
said earlier, like I was kind of joking, but like Forrest Frank, he talks about like he just is like 150%. He's all on when he's touring, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like focused, and he's writing songs, and he's like creative, and he's not distracted. That's how I feel like I am when I'm traveling for weddings. Like my tour
Mm-hmm.
is going away for 3, 4 nights to shoot a wedding, and I'm like fully focused on
Mm-hmm.
the wedding and my clients and serving them. And then when I come back, I obviously have my work hours, but I'm trying so hard to just be like fully on. It's really hard to do that, honestly. When
Mm-hmm.
you're with your kids. My wife, she works, but she's like a couple of hours a week with clients. So in our
Mm-hmm.
season of life that we're in right now requires me to be much more on with my kids. So um, I just really try to focus on the things that are absolutely so necessary, which is obviously like client
Mm-hmm.
support and making sure they're taken care of. Turnaround time. Social media and marketing are super important for me. And then like
Mm-hmm.
staying close to relationships that, I've been forming for the last several years, and creating new ones. Like, I feel like if I can continue to pour into those categories and not so much focus on my gear or, additional marketing ideas that I have, or
Mm-hmm.
just not get stuck focused on things that aren't really that important at the end of the day. It's like just give
Mm-hmm.
all you've got to the things that are going to push your business forward and evolve. And maybe I'm not shooting the $1,000,000 weddings that everyone else is shooting that are in year 15 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but I would rather not do that and have the time with my family that I have versus like hustle, hustle, hustle to get to that point and maybe make more money, but then not be around with my kids as much. Like I'm okay with that. And I've given myself the
Yeah.
permission to not be there and to not compare myself to them because I'm like, well, and I'm not saying they aren't spending the time with their kids,
Yeah.
but for me, this is all I can do right now in the season, and that is okay with me.
Yeah.
And I'm 35, so I've got like time ahead to like pursue those things in the
Mm-hmm.
next decade. I want to do this for as long as my body and my mind and everything will let me. So I'm not as concerned about being like in my prime right now and like reaching my business goals as I am being the best father and husband that I can be for my kids. And I don't talk about
Yeah.
that like on social media or anything, but like this is a great space to do that
Mm-hmm.
because when you go on
Yeah.
social, I do share about my family, but I don't love like posting my kids too much because like just for
Mm-hmm.
privacy and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
But I want to figure out a way to convey that message in a way that's helpful for people because that's actually the most authentic version of me right now. Like if you go on social media, I
Mhm,
think my biggest thing with social media is that as photographers, we can often hide behind our photos and not actually
mhm.
reveal the most true version of who we are. Um,
Yeah,
because that's actually why people will hire us when we show who we are
yeah.
and our personalities.
Mhm.
So it's a fine line, fine blend between doing that. And I'm trying to do it, but you know, it takes a lot of work too. So
Yeah. Well, scary too. I
it
mean I
is.
mean, even, like, just show up as, like, who you are because people do hire you, and I think for you and you touched on earlier, like, when you do have those relationships and get to work with people that
Yeah.
are, um, like, appreciate who you are, it's, like, so much freeing and more
Yep.
life-giving, but to get that, you need to, like, show up and, like, how do you let whether it's, like, meeting people in person or,
Right.
like, sharing, and I mean, even, like, for me, like, I dragged my feet so much on like getting this podcast going, and
Yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah.
I got to get everything perfect.
Yeah.
And Jessica is like great because she's very different from me. She's like, just get that stupid thing done.
That's
Just
my
like
wife
start
too.
recording, like send the email to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just do it.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, but it is scary. Just like I'm like, dude, every time I'm like, what am I gonna say? Like, do I get an
Yeah.
outline? Do I not? And like,
Right.
on one hand, just kind of trusting like, hey, the words are gonna come
Yeah,
how it is, and like, you know what I mean. And also, you get better at something that you
you do.
practice. But
Right.
I mean, the more you put out there of just like letting people like it's gonna repel and attract. I think the
That's
more
right.
you're honest about who you
So
are,
true.
like the reality is like we want to please everybody,
Yeah.
but a lot of times like
You shouldn't.
a lot of people probably either hate the way my voice sounds or just not going to be happy with the things I say. And like
Right,
that's okay. But
right.
for some people, like will
Yeah.
hear it and be like, no, that is like actually like resonates, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, why would I want to please people that don't I don't vibe with? And that's okay. Like
Yes.
we have different wavelengths, right?
Yes.
But I think when you can like show up and be like authentic to who you
Yep.
are, it's not exhausting because you're
No.
just actually being yourself. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, cool. Like I don't need to create this facade of
Right.
like, and I think it's hard with weddings too, because
Mhm.
sometimes like I don't know if you really, but I feel like sometimes, especially if you're trying to do like these like higher end weddings, you have to like put up this version that like
Mm.
you're more successful. You only do these like caliber weddings, or like
Mm.
you also have this lifestyle. And it's like, well, just at some point, like, hey, obviously, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shooting weddings if I was like worth 100 million. Like
Right.
that's just, you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing this. So it's like,
Yeah.
no, like
I don't
that's
have a
not the
yacht.
reality.
It's
But
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like it's just that funny thing where I think sometimes, just especially in the what like the luxury industry, you can kind of get
Yeah.
caught up because you're like around so much of that,
It's
and you're like,
true.
okay, how do I like also give that off? Where,
Sure.
um, like I'm all for being successful, and like, hey, it'd be cool to be able to be at that point. Like I'm definitely want to like keep on growing and
Right.
but grow out of like abundance, not just because you're after. It's like a byproduct, right? Like the wealth is a byproduct of like serving people,
It's true.
which I think is something you do a really cool job of, like with your clients, of like
Yeah.
focusing on how do I like serve them and what like true value is, which
Yeah.
actually that'd be my next question is like,
Yeah.
how would you define value?
Ooh. A value for like your clients, like how do you create value for them?
Yeah. Or just value in general.
In
Like how
general.
would you define what, like, cause I think it's something like people's like, oh, like you need to get value. If you're going to raise prices in the luxury market, like you
Right.
need to make sure there's value there.
Right.
But I feel like it can be like a buzzword
Yeah.
where like what, like how would you define what value is? Whether it's like
Yeah.
for your clients or like when you are making purchases or choosing how to invest your time or money.
Yeah. I would say value is refining a process, an experience, and a product for your clients to the point where, like, you think about Apple or Tesla or,
Hmm.
different products that are, or experiences, like when you walk into
Hmm.
a really high end bag store, which I don't ever do, but like there's not a million bags on the shelf. There's a reason why
Mm.
there's only 10 or there's only one of
Hmm.
each item. It's
Yeah.
refinement. They've perfected something to the point where they are saying, we're going to have one of these in the store, and if it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, it's not. Like, they're constantly pushing away people from their business until they get the right person to walk in that store and be like, this bag's for you. And that person will spend everything for that bag because
Hmm.
they're like, this bag is particularly for me because I have the financial means to buy it, or the
Hmm.
desire to spend the money. I value this enough to think that this is something that I want to put my money into. And I think the more you charge in this industry, the more you have to see it that way, of like refinement, of you don't have to show
Hmm.
every single photo you take. Like, I think there's so many galleries that I've seen where I'm like, man, you got to cut that out. Like, that is the same
Hmm.
photo 5 times. And what happens for the viewer
Yeah.
is they see a gallery of the same looking thing, and they're pushed away, versus like if you just showed one, they might be like, oh, I love this. This is everything,
Yeah.
That's just an example. But same thing, like when it comes to the client experience, like not over talking, not oversharing, thinking of ways to be creative with them and find solutions to their problems. You can only do that over time, of refining your process and realizing, okay, thinking ahead of like, well, so and so a couple weddings ago, they had the same situation happen and this is the outcome. So
Hmm.
like, how can I now apply that to my situation? So I think value comes down to experience. Like, how long have you been doing this? How much have you learned along the way? How proactive are you being to the point where people are like, oh my gosh, like, you were amazing. And why is that? Like, you have to
Hmm.
figure out, okay, it's because I made these decisions along the way that caused them to feel like, okay, this guy offered the value. He's worth way more than I
Mhm.
even paid him, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say that's kind of how I would see that as far as value.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love how you're taking these inputs down the line, but it affects like the output for them.
Everything.
Like for them, they're seeing like an immediate transformation of like it's almost like a quantum leap where
It
they're going like
is.
from here to there,
Yeah.
and you're taking them from there, but it's like the value is like the distance that they go,
Yep.
whether it's like financially as a coach
Yeah.
or like emotionally,
So
whatever.
much.
Like that's the distance is like the leap. It's like that distance between the two,
Right.
and then your offer or what your creativeness of like whatever you're doing, like your vision into value.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's what creating is. Like you're taking vision
Yes.
into value,
Yeah.
and it's a vehicle that you use to get them there. So it's
For
like
sure.
that vehicle is like you being there. Like it's obviously the photos, but it's the experience.
Yeah.
It's all those things is like that vehicle that transports them there.
Yes.
Which I mean, it even goes before like the client experience and all that.
Yeah.
But
So true.
no, I love that because I think so many people do get caught up in the like all the inputs,
Yeah.
like how like all the work or the effort, and where to me
Mm.
I'm like it's not all that doesn't it matters to your ability to do so, but to
Yeah.
the client, it doesn't matter all the inputs. It matters like what's the output. Like if you're
Yeah.
talking like you're going to a restaurant, like, well, we use these knives and we
Right.
use all this stuff. And like it's like, no, like what does the plate
Yeah.
look like? And are you listening? Because if you're just stuck in the kitchen, just like cooking, and you're like, I don't know what people's feedback are.
Right.
But if you can take that feedback and understand,
Mhm.
like, oh, they think the food's too salty. Okay, I could, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that's how you can start like
Yeah.
kind of finding that
Refining.
balance and as an artist. But
For sure.
and that gets back to refining. Like you're just constantly refining. That's where your
Yeah.
value exponentially increases because,
Exactly.
like you said, you're whether it's like understanding what clients wants, and now it's
Yep.
they don't have to have that decision because you've already made it for them, but
Bingo.
they trust your like they're trusting your what's like your standard, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that's what I feel like that exponential value is that they're
Yeah.
like they're paying for that trust that like you're gonna make the decisions for them. Just like a
For
planner, it's like
sure.
or like a designer, it's like they're
Yep.
trusting that they can make the decisions better than they would.
Yes. Exactly. When they ask you a question of should I do this or that, that
Hmm.
you kind of know, okay, where you should go in that decision, and it's not like you have to have the answer to everything. That's like
Hmm.
not the epitome of success or value, but it's more that you're staying in tune with like what brides need and how that might
Hmm.
affect the the longevity of the day,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just people putting people first to me. Like honestly, it's like
Hmm.
how can I serve this person as best as possible, make them feel seen, known, heard, taken care of. All that we do is making people feel good. Like that is like
Hmm.
99% of what we do is like how can you take care of someone to the point where they're like, wow, I felt like they were thinking of me, they were taking care of me, So many photographers can get in this mode of like, all right, well, what can I do for my business? It's like
Hmm.
your success will come when people are so over the top thankful and like you killed it. And there's things that you do for your photography that you shoot in a way that's going to help shoot the day and look
Hmm.
elevated. That's all like a secondary thing, but they don't see that. They don't know
Yeah.
that. They don't need
Yeah.
to know that. And they'll still benefit from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
What would you say is like a reality, like now transitioning, like in your life right now
Yeah.
that you like, would you like consider like maybe thriving or like full of life that you never thought would have been possible like 10, 15 years ago?
Oh man, that's good. Um, I was pretty afraid of like how to do this kid thing and own a business.
Hmm.
Like I own a house, like those are all things that like I didn't know how I'd get there, 10 years
Hmm.
ago as like a solo. I'm essentially the full provider for my family. My wife doesn't bring income in
Hmm.
really. So to
Hmm.
be able to do something that I absolutely love, like literally love this work. I put it on my Instagram
Hmm.
yesterday, like on the top, just like I love what I do.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do because like, oh man, I just lit up this weekend. I was so pumped after the wedding. I was like, man, this is the best job. I'm so grateful. And um yeah, just so thankful I get to make money doing what I love and have time with my family. Like there's no greater gift to me right now than that. And
Hmm.
yeah, there's so many other things I could be doing. I could maybe quit tomorrow and try something else, but this right now is allowing me the flexibility and the lifestyle that I want to have, and the income that I
Hmm.
need to do all of those things. So yeah, uh, I look back and I didn't know what the future would hold, but I'm so thankful that I get to do what I do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. That's it definitely it exudes like yeah, on your Instagram and
Oh,
when
thanks.
you're in person and on your website too. I love how much you just like bring that in.
Thanks, Jonathan.
If we're like so if you're like stuck now, I know this is a kind of like a stereotypical question,
Yeah.
but trying to think of a way to like reframe it a little bit better. But like you're someone like just now today and you're kind of like getting started or you feel stuck. Like maybe you're
Mm,
having success, but you feel kind of stuck and whether it's like you're overworked or just like kind of not sure like what the next step is, like, or you just can't kind of really see the value in what you're doing. Like,
mhm.
do you have like kind of like what would come to mind if you're gonna like encourage someone just really like, hey, like Garrett, like I'm stuck. Like they're like came to you for coaching and
Sure.
you're on a call with them. They're just like, dude, like I'm stuck. I'm not, I don't know, like feeling like maybe they're like making some money, but they're just not feeling like stoked about it.
For sure. I mean,
We're not sure the next
I
steps.
would ask a lot of questions. I would ask why
Mm-hmm.
to like everything, um, to get down to the
I love
heart.
that.
Yeah, to get to the heart of like why it is that they are even pursuing photography. Is it because they saw it on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram or TikTok and they're like, that looks cool. That guy travels a lot and he goes to beautiful places.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that weddings make a lot of money, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
answer is to why they're doing this thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I could be shooting so many other things. I mean, I know commercial photographers make great money. I know, um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, headshots or whatever, like they're way more like mindless and you can set up a studio in your
Yeah.
garage if you need to, like, and shoot during the week.
Yeah.
That's fine. I sure I can do all of those things, but I don't get the same joy out of all of that. So it's like I found a crossroads between like total contentment and financial um return. Um and so I'm just like in the flow constantly when I'm shooting a wedding. So like whenever people work with me, I feel like they're just like, gosh, this guy like loves what he does. And it's true. I don't have to fake any of it ever. So yeah, I feel like I've hit this crossroads where like creativity meets the financial return and like
Mm-hmm.
my joy for what I do is all like in that same intersection. So like every time I pick up my camera or I'm with someone, I'm just, like, pumped. Like, I'm not striving,
Mm.
I'm not trying. Like, I don't think I've ever picked up my camera. Like, I truly don't. I can't think of one time and I'm like, "Oh, I just gotta get through this," or I just gotta, like,
Mm-hmm.
put on my happy face right now because that's what they're expecting of me. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just wells from a place of true, like, fulfillment, and I'm not saying everyone has to feel that way about their work or with photography. They
Yeah.
might actually feel that way about the craft side of their shooting. Like, I feel it more from a
Mm-hmm.
people standpoint. Whereas, like, they might
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, man, I'm so stoked to get this lighting set up or to shoot with this lens," or they just,
Mm-hmm.
like, technically nerd out, but they still find that fulfillment, right? So, I would
Mm-hmm.
ask that person who's stuck, "Why is it that you're doing this? Is it like, what do you like or what's the perceived desire or, like, thought that you have of why you would like this? Have you done it before? Yes, I
Mm.
have. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, what part? Um, well, I made a lot of
Yeah.
money. Okay. Did you actually like doing it? No, it was kind of stressful. Then you probably shouldn't do
Yeah.
this. Um,
Yeah.
so I would just get down to why and just find out like what's the heart behind this person and are they enjoying it? Because if they're not at any level, then they shouldn't be doing this. It's burnout is real and they're going to hit burnout at some point.
I think, yeah, you said like for people that are stuck, burned out, like if they're burned out, taking a step back and like, okay, so you have like asking yourself, why are you doing it in the first
Yeah.
place? Which I think is really like, I mean, it's something that we do like with our commercial brand, like
Cool.
with clients of like understanding a lot of times they want to do like some video and it's like, okay, but
Right.
why? And like,
Yes.
why did you start the company in the first place? Because
Totally.
you get down to that and now you're like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like getting curious back to the fly or you're
Yeah.
hitting the window. So it's like the way to start taking a step back to know where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Do you want to go outside? Do you like what is it that you want and how do you get into
Yeah.
that fulfillment? I think when you ask why, it's such a good thing. And I think sometimes it's hard to do by yourself. But I think finding that there's this book called the book I mentioned earlier, Start With Why,
Yeah.
is like really good of understanding like just from like one, how it's way more successful for a business when you actually are operating out of like why you do something instead of
Yep.
like what you're like offering. Like
Yeah.
if for us, like for our editing, like we started Hugo Atelier to
Yep.
empower luxury creatives to thrive.
Yes.
By the way, we do editing.
Yeah.
Like we did that because that was something that we saw as like a missing part where for us, like we didn't find like a solid resource for tailored towards the luxury market.
Yeah.
And like there are resources out there, and it's not like we want to compete with other ones. It's just,
Right.
hey, if it's not a good fit, like we want to give something different.
Yeah.
But that's where we're operating from, is like we want to help others thrive.
Cool.
By the way, we do editing is way more compelling than just like, hey, we'll
Yeah.
give you the best editing service, like all these features, benefits. We edit on the best computers. Who cares what you edit on? They just care about
Exactly.
the output.
Exactly.
Or like Apple. So, but there's another book in the series called like Find Your Why,
Huh.
which helps if you're stuck, like you don't even know why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
And if you don't know why you do it in the first place,
Yeah.
you're gonna like burn out pretty
Yeah.
quick. Like it's a candle without like, you don't have a deep well that's like,
Yep.
you're dwindling down instead of like adding something that's gonna kind of grow.
Totally.
But when you can find that core why of what you love, what you're doing,
Yeah.
now it does grow because you're growing your purpose
Yep.
over time because you get better at it.
Yep.
And as you get better at it, you can maximize your impact.
Right.
And if you love the impact you have,
Yep.
it's a natural thing where it's like a fueling fire
Yes.
versus if you're starting with like just a little bit, like
Yeah.
you're saying, you're going to get burned out
Yeah.
because you're not even excited at the core. You're starting out of the wrong thing that isn't like life-giving.
Right.
It's literally like it's like you're pouring out a little bit out of the glass over and over again
Right.
instead of something that you're like tapped into fulfillment.
Exactly.
So yeah, that book, Start With Why, or just talking with someone who like gets it
Yeah.
can help too. Like,
Yeah.
I think just, it's such a cool thing where if you don't start with that, it's just really hard to find your, you know what I mean? It's just, you're going to get burned out because
Yep.
you don't know, you don't have a purpose behind it. Like if you don't have, in the book, the one thing he talks about, like, it's kind of like this iceberg and you have like what you're doing at the top.
Yeah.
And then you have like purpose, and I forget there's two, but like purpose is that underlying thing that no one really sees,
Yes.
but it drives everything else.
That's it. Absolutely.
Which I think is just, which it could be like someone may love doing headshots because
Yeah.
it's like we all have different personalities, and that's what's
Yeah.
so cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, which I think is just like a cool thing to like it's like funny. It's like usually the simple answers are actually the
Yeah.
like if you're feeling burned out, it's like what's the one thing you could do that would like make everything else easier? It's probably
Exactly.
find why, which is so cool. I don't know. I love that book, and I never thought of that as like the answer to like
Huh.
if you're stuck. It's just first finding out like why you want to do that, and then that can help you give your true north.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I love that. Couple last questions for you. Where are you feeling like stretched or called to like create more value, or like as you further refine like your giftings, like where do you
Yeah.
see like the next year or two, like that you're excited about?
Yeah. I mean, I really want to grow this photography coaching thing. And even the word coaching doesn't resonate with me, and I need to figure out a different word for it, because coaching to me is like taking someone who's here and like telling them what to do so that they can get here. And that's not my mindset. That's not my like perspective on it. It's really like guiding someone and giving them like a place to someone to trust, like a friend, you know?
Yeah.
But they're also paying me, so they're not, you know, it's like kind of finding that balance between like, how can I help you just be the best version of you possible, and give you the permission, like we talked about earlier, to step into that. And sometimes it takes someone who's a little bit ahead of you to almost discipleship, you know, to help you see the value in yourself that is already there. And obviously like I'm going to give direction and strategy, and there's so much of that that's like welling up in me that I have more than enough to give, but I want them to come to their own conclusions as well, and not just replicate the things that I've done in my business, but like think creatively, like, okay, it's so much easier to talk to someone else about their problems than it is for you to talk to yourself about yours, you know? Like we get so stuck in like, oh, like this thing's not working out, it must be me or whatever, versus like someone else is like, dude, it's just that. Just do that differently. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. So I really want to build that, and I want to create space for people to feel like they can just be like real in their struggles as a business owner, you know? So that would be a huge goal of mine, is to focus on that in the next year. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love the way you frame that too. Just it's like almost like, I think like you said, when you're further along a little bit, you can borrow belief, like let people borrow your belief in them, where it's like, okay, like you need to believe, but if you can't yourself, having someone that's done it see that in you is so empowering.
Totally.
Versus if you don't have someone there, it's just like you can, which kind of gets back into that whole like attachment style.
Yeah.
I was talking with a friend Sarah about like you have like same thing, healthy or unhealthy, or like secure and insecure.
Yes.
And sometimes when we're in that like insecure, you're like second guessing everything that you're doing.
Exactly.
Versus when you have that secure where you're like, no, like you can have someone help you bring you back to that secure where you feel confident, you have that stability
100%
to be able to grow and not be like have this anxiety of like, wait, am I doing the right thing or not?
Yeah, that's
So
exactly it. It's the
yeah,
security versus the insecure. That's such a perfect language
yeah,
for it. Yeah,
yeah. I love it.
it's awesome.
Sweet. Okay. Favorite before I leave, favorite book besides the Bible. Do you have like a favorite book that you would put number
Yeah,
one or two?
there's one that I just like can't get away from, and it's called Essentialism. Have you heard of that one?
Hmm. I have. It's on my list,
It's
but
like Greg
I've had
something.
a few people tell me.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's I read it like 3 times, and it's been a while since I've read it, but it's basically like getting down to what are the most, this is very literal, but what are the most essential
Hmm.
things that you need to be doing in your life and in your business? And like he talks about like writing a list of like the 10 top things that are the most important and then like crossing out 7 of them and doing 3 of them.
Mm.
He's
Hmm.
coached a lot of really big CEOs and like major people that they're, like we said, time is so limited that they try to bite off
Hmm.
more than they can chew, and they're just like realizing that I
Yeah.
can be way more effective if I just focus on these 3 things instead of trying to do all
Yeah.
10. And that's
Hmm.
so real for me right now in my life is like, hey
Yeah.
Garrett, you can only really be a good husband, father, and business owner and friend, obviously, but
Yeah.
like if you try to do a million things, you're gonna be a jack of all trades. And
Yeah.
I want to be focused and I want to be present and I want to be fulfilled. Those are my goals. Success looks like fulfillment to me. It doesn't look like fame
Mm.
and fortune and all these things that the world can give you. Those are good things, but I think if I put my focus on them, they won't return the same that fulfillment will. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
I love that. All right. Well, you're like the fifth person that told me to read that book. So
yeah.
I need to move it
Essentialism.
up
It's a
in my
good one.
queue.
Yeah,
It's a good one. It sounds like something I need right now. So
yeah.
awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. It
Yeah,
is always a
Jonathan.
pleasure talking with you.
Same man.
And I feel like we could talk for hours, talk for hours.
Definitely could.
If people want to get plugged in with you, I know you have like the coaching and the photography. What's the best place for people to reach out to
Yeah.
you, find you?
Yeah, just Instagram is easiest. My business name is Garrett Richardson, Garrett Richardson, and then my coaching is Garrett Richardson Coach. So
Cool.
either one works, or email. You can find my email on the Instagram account. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, sweet. We'll talk to you later and thanks for
yeah.
being on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate you, man. This is awesome.